the true ultimate problem at the end of the day, no matter country, is everyone is born into this world with no identity. And then you have factions that want to imprint what they believe the best identity is on you. So interesting why I figured this out. Because, as much as the right wants to say, and I'm on the right, that, the left and all this identity, it's a disaster, it's wicked. Yeah, you have an identity problem too on the right. You can say, but our identity's better. It's still not where God wants it. See, you can't make your identity that you're an American. You can make that you're an American citizen, but you can't make the flag your identity. You can love the American flag, you can love the land, but it's not your identity. Because what happened when the original fall happened is that they lost their identity. So since the fall, the original sin, there's been an identity crisis in every civilization. That's why they all eventually go astray, because they're not getting to what the true problem is, and that's that when you're born into this world, everybody tells you what your identity is, but really you're looking into this cracked mirror of all these, cracked images of yourself, because ultimately when Adam and Eve took from the tree they were not supposed to, because the serpent told Eve, take from this tree because then you'll be like God. What Eve didn't realize is she was already the image of God. So by taking from the tree, she lost her image of God, and so did Adam. And since that time, 7,000 years, there's been, every civilization has had an identity crisis, not realizing that, because here's the thing with identity crisis, it can cause a total disaster for people. It really can. It causes depression and all sorts of problems. And yet you have tons of people that create tribes and make it about materialism and validation, to be validated. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what God wants people to realize is there's only one identity that's going to heal you. And it's not a nation. And it's not about a flag. A flag is just the representation of your nation. You can love it, all of that, okay? But you will continue to take on false identities by different factions of the left and the right and everything in between, until you realize that it'll all be a false identity, until you realize what is truly missing. What is missing is the identity of being a child of God. That's what it is. So I think that even though the craziness on the left I don't support, I think God wanted it to happen. Because again, God expects America to grow, even though the Christian nationalists and the Charlie Kirks and the Nick Fuentes want to take us back to their bullshit. Okay, God is not about moving backwards. He will purge who he has to prevent moving backwards. However, all of those people would say, but look what the left did. And yeah, no, but God let it happen, didn't he? He let it happen for a reason, because it's time to see that both of you, everyone has an identity problem, because the only identity that will heal you is being a child of God. And I know this. Nobody can deny this. The rich love their kingdom of America. And I don't hate America. It's just, it serves the wealthy, okay? It just does. Whether it was intended to be that way in the beginning, even the people, with the best intentions, they don't even know their identity, okay? Nobody did. Because again, it's all about needing to grow. Only God knows best. Man doesn't. But the wealthy will hang on to their system because it serves them. It always does. The reason I understand this so well and it came to me today, is because I've said many times that, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and when I drink, it's like there's this bucket I'm always trying to fill, okay? So I'm trying to show that here. But the problem is that the bucket has a hole at the bottom of it, so it never fills that place that's empty. And yet, I said how what is ultimately needed for everyone, because, and I know this from getting sober, and only God could do it, is surrender. So by the time, crawling into AA, I'm a total loser, okay? Really, that's how everybody feels, okay? All the best motivational speakers can say whatever bullshit they want about, oh, don't say that about yourself. No, you need to be able to be honest about yourself when you're in that state, okay? God expects it. Because when you're at the hopeless, helpless place, that's truly the greatest work that God can do. But what do people do? They often go running to the doctors, into the psych unit, because that's, as a psych nurse, that's what we look for, is how are they hopeless and helpless, because that we worry about that. But for God, if you turn to God and surrender to him and just hang on to him, that's when he does his greatest work. And that's what he does, is he gets rid of this bucket altogether, and he fills himself in that place that you have been filling all of this alcohol with, or all your identities with, that never stick because they're not compatible. So what happens with the alcohol is then you just become filled with all these different spirits, and it becomes your God because it controls everything you do. And I said about the 4-month mark, and I'll never forget it. I was in an AA meeting in Des Plaines, Illinois. I remember exactly where I was sitting in the room when God had done like this unveiling. And it wasn't a vision. It's the only way I can describe it, is that he was unveiling, this is the work I've done so far. Me not realizing he was doing anything because I was so much in a fog. And oftentimes, people are told, in your first year of getting sober, you may feel like you're in a fog. Well, who else often feels like they're in a fog? People in identity crises. Yeah, it's when your depersonalization can happen and that kind of thing. And so people, naturally, they want to cling to something. But when it's something that isn't truly what their identity is, it's just a sort of a quick fix. But it's not going to last. But God, he's the ultimate identity, because when Jesus came, he was restoring, I'm giving your identity back. But of course, man has wanted to keep us under their kingdom, not God's kingdom. It's all this identity. The faces on this, just like Caesar, okay? Identity. Nobody realizing it's all an identity crisis. I don't care if you're wealthy or you're poor. Everybody has been having an identity crisis. And you can say, no, my parents instilled this on me and that. Yeah, and many times there's people that say it doesn't feel right. None of it will. None of it will. Did God give you this land? He did, not for you to make it your identity. But he gave you the land hoping that, will the Americans be the people that actually biblically mature enough to realize that the problem since the fall has been that everybody in the world has an identity problem. Because unless you have the identity of, I'm a child of God, you will go your entire life having people place the labels on you, whether it's LGB or it's Turning Point, and everybody can argue about, no, ours is right and theirs is wrong. But no, all of them are wrong, because none of you are truly talking. Because where do you think masculinity started? God didn't give man masculinity. It started after the fall. It did, because of self-will. Self-will created the masculinity, and because of that went on to create the femininity. We know some basics. There's male and female. We know what the difference is there, okay? Let's just keep it simple. But as far as the constructs, Turning Point isn't any better than the left, okay? Because your false image of God, you just use God. You don't truly have his image. Why do we even print on the coin "In God We Trust" when we're going to put human beings' faces on it? because we've made man the God because man wants his own kingdom.